Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of Soul Over Matter podcast. I'm your host, Michelle. I am an intuitive healer, Reiki master teacher, spiritual coach, author, and host of this dear Soul Over Matter podcast. I love that you are here. If this is your first episode tuning in to Soul Over Matter podcast, welcome to our community. Welcome to a soul family where others just get you and others understand you. That's why I started this podcast as well. It's because of this energy where we are moving into and we have been moving into, right? It's just a quickening that is happening. So before I go off on a tangent, I just wanted to share, if you like Soul Over Matter podcast, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am in the process of growing that beautiful space, that beautiful channel, sharing all of our guest episodes, as well as now some more solo episodes onto the YouTube channel, which is my Instagram name, Michelle the Mystic. You can also follow me on Instagram at Michelle the Mystic, at Soul Over Matter podcast. Send me a DM. And if you desire a free card reading, I do intuitive card readings. You can write an Apple review on Apple Podcast for Soul Over Matter. It helps us reach more like-minded souls like us. And you can also rate us on Spotify. I can't always see those, but please rate, please share this podcast with others on your stories, on your socials. And what else is there? I'm blanking here, but please share. The more we share, the more other like-minded souls can find us. And that is one of my missions, one of my purposes is really to bring community together, bring people together, especially who feel lost and alone. That's one of my main tenets for Soul Over Matter. It's to bring stories to life, is to bring people on, right? Guests on, and share their stories and share who they are and where they've come from and what they've been through and where they are today. It's so, so important. So thank you for being here. I love you. And maybe you're even watching this on YouTube, but I am just, we're entering almost our third year of Soul Over Matter podcast. I've had over 100 episodes, and I just feel like we continue to grow and continue to share. And I'm also always open to topics. Send me a DM. Guest speakers, send me who you'd love to see on. I love to hear from you all. So today is a topic that many people have reached out about in the past. And this topic has a lot of layers to it on a personal level for me. So we are going to chat about channeling today. And if you are new to spirituality, if you are new to just this world, right? Channeling can be really fucking scary. And I say that from personal experience as well. And that's not to scare you, but it's the truth, right? There is this light and love to spirituality, and there's also a lot of fucking darkness, right? A lot of shadow. There's just both, and there gets to be both. So with channeling, what is channeling? Let's start there, right? Channeling, it's essentially calling in energy or being open, right? An open channel to energy that is possibly not your own. Sometimes it is our own, right? I channel my higher self a lot of the time. I channel my own soul a lot of the time. And there are open channels. And when you begin this spiritual journey, you open up your chakras to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right? That's why there is so much in the spiritual community around protection, around sovereignty, around cleansing, around discernment between what is mine and what is someone else's. And I'm going to share some personal experiences on this episode because I've had a lot of fucking experience with channeling and not always good. So, and I really believe that being truthful and honest and authentic in spirituality, but also just in life in general, it's one of the facets of me. I desire to be as heart-centered and authentic with each and every one of you as possible. So channeling, it's opening up that crown, right? Opening up your crown chakra the highest chakra, well, not highest, there's so many, but the one closest to your head, your antenna, to the external, right? To either other souls on this planet or to other entities, right? Ghosts, spirits, galactic beings, souls on other planets, souls in transition. There's so much that you can channel and there's so much you can be open to. And I think I haven't delved into this topic in a while at all, actually, on here. Maybe I have, I can't remember, but I had, a few people ask me to share this topic. And for a while, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to share about it because there is the darker side to channeling. And that's what I feel is so important and crucial to know if you are on this spiritual path, is to have discernment with who you are trusting, one, with your own channel, and then who are you trusting to give you messages from that channel. So so channeling is that openness, right? Opening your crown, asking for guidance, or sometimes you're not asking. And I will talk about that. I've not asked a lot of times in my life and I've received information. So when we are open conduits, right? Because our bodies are these electric antennas between heaven and earth, right? Between the underworld below us and the skies above us, the galactic planets above us, everything above us. And there is this vulnerability around channeling, right? So maybe you've had experiences yourself with channeling, right? And channeling could be through your own medium, right? So I'll briefly go into the clairs if you don't know about them. So clairvoyance is when you can see, right? So your third eye is open to messages. Your third eye is open to channel what you are receiving. You can see images maybe in the future. You can see images in the past. Maybe a past life comes through, right? Or things that are happening in real time. So that's clairvoyance. Some of us have that opening. And I truly believe we all have the ability to access all of these clairs, all of these intuitive abilities. Sometimes they come online in increments, right? And sometimes they don't come online, which is okay too, right? So clairvoyance is seeing, clairsentience is feeling, right? You channel a feeling, you channel what is maybe happening in a room before you got there, right? Or a house. Like I remember walking into haunted houses when I was younger or on these like ghost tours, and I would feel the spirits from, years prior, or feel different things that might have happened, the violence or other events that happened. So there's that clairsentience, that feeling. Then there is clairaudience, channeling words, right? Channeling, no, not thoughts, but channeling that song, right? Like there's things that come into our awareness, and that is clairaudience, when you can actually hear something. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same room as you. It can be like internal hearing thoughts. And if you are clairaudient, you know what I'm talking about. You just kind of hear something, and I'll share about that as well. And then you have clair cognizance, knowing, right? So this one's not so much as channeling, but it's definitely the energy of just this deep knowing, like you channel knowledge. And I've had this since I was a child, and a lot of adults, a lot of people would just be like, how did you know that? And I couldn't really describe, especially as a kid, I couldn't describe how I knew it. I would just deeply in my soul know that something had occurred or know that something was right. So there are all these different channels, there are all these different ways of accessing information. And we can do this ourselves, right? And the way to really do that is to have discernment, because there are spirits around us all the time. There are entities around us. There are beings around us. And our job is to really be able to decipher, to discern what is of the light, right? And what is not of the light, or maybe is distorted or in that shadow, or maybe it's a spirit who is in between. And I've had experiences with that as well. So channeling is an open door, right? It's this ability to access other realms. And with any spiritual tool, there's always this, I don't want to say warning, there's just always this feeling, right? This knowledge to have be careful, one, what you wish for, right? Like the Ouija board. I haven't touched a Ouija board in years. I used to play around with it as a kid, and I look back and I'm just like, holy crap, I can't even imagine what I channeled during that time because I was younger and so much more open, right? So there is this maturity that comes with channeling, that comes with opening yourself up to messages, opening yourself up willingly, intentionally to what is around you, and being able to really know, is this of the light? Is this Christ consciousness? Or is this something that is messing with me or toying with me, or, trying to feed off my energy? So yeah, it's interesting because I feel like a lot, not everyone, but a lot of people in the spiritual community just want all their gifts. They want everything to happen. They want to be so tapped in, right? And there's a balance that gets to happen because we are human. We are meant to be on this earth plane, feeling the earth, accessing earth, doing earthly things and balancing that with our spirituality, with our gifts, right? It's that age-old adage of be careful what you wish for, be careful what you call into your space, because channeling's no joke. I have also seen firsthand false light leaders on Instagram. Oh, I'm channeling so and so, and I'm channeling this person, and a lot of times I can't believe them. I honestly am just like, that's not true. Like, I don't know who you're channeling, but that's just not true. And I say that with love, right? I think we get to be really careful with our gifts and with what we say and how we say it, especially with the years to come, because it's not a joke, right? Spirituality isn't a joke. Channeling isn't a joke. And it's a process, right? It's experiential. There are things that happen in our lives that help us access that channeling, or help us access deeper parts of ourselves and deeper gifts within ourselves. And I'm also so cautious to talk about this stuff. So, as I'm talking, please take everything with a grain of salt. You don't have to agree with me. Like, this is my podcast, this is my channel. I am sharing from my own intuitive knowledge, my own intuitive knowing. And I'm going to share some examples of this, of the good and the not so good, right? So when I was in San Francisco, this was like during the beginning of my awakening. It was like 2018, 2019. And I had gone to a Reiki session, and Tanya, my Reiki master, shared with me, she's like, you have this heavy presence in your aura. She's like, where you live, it's just wild to like reflect back where you live. So where I lived in San Francisco was a very gentrified and up and coming neighborhood. So where I was living, there were new buildings, like everything was new. I think it was like less than 10 years old. Before that, it was all, junkyards and construction, and they had just built like I think it was just like the baseball stadium, but all these places were different. And there were new buildings up, right? And I just moved to San Francisco a year prior, but I'd always known this was a new neighborhood in the city. And my Reiki teacher shared, she's like, Michelle, you are living on old burial grounds. Like, you are living on places that were burial grounds for people. And, she even shared, because she had been living in San Francisco a long time, that when they were excavating, when they were clearing out and building these new buildings where I was now living, that they found bones, that they found remains, skeletal remains. So when I found this out, I was just like, holy crap. Also, no wonder why I was called to live in this particular modern neighborhood. But the downside was she shared, that I wasn't clearing my energy enough, right? I wasn't cleansing myself enough. And I was still learning back then discernment. I was still learning boundaries. I'm also going to talk about being afraid of the dark today. Like, I just feel that's something that comes up a lot with those of us who are super sensitive, super highly empathic. So she shared that there was an entity, there was a spirit that was lingering around my apartment, lingering around me. And he was kind of stuck in between worlds, right? So it was a spirit who had passed on, had transitioned, but almost didn't know he had transitioned, right? Or so there are different ways that we transition as souls, right? Some of us, it's a shock, and the human aspect, right, of the soul doesn't realize that they have passed on, and they're almost afraid to go into the next portal. I have had many experiences with this, and if you feel scared, if you're feeling like, oh my God, that's so wild, it takes I don't want to say it takes time, but I guess experience to be like, oh, they're just souls who are in between, right? They're just in between. They're not good or bad. They're just like stuck and they don't know what to do. So she was sharing, this soul had kind of imprinted, I don't want to say imprinted on me, but was in my vicinity, in my aura, in my apartment, and was, yeah, it was like I was almost channeling that energy without even meaning to, right? So I had to cleanse. I had to help him pass on to the other world, and talk to him, and really allow him to enter that next portal, right? Because this is where discernment comes in. This is where our boundaries come in. And giving ourselves that time and that space and that energy to say, okay, I'm open 9 to 5, right? It's like a business. I'm open 9 to 5. And after that, you cannot bother me. You cannot, you have to leave me alone. I am closed. The shop is closed. Like, I cannot channel, and you can't have access to my energy. So that was like one of the first times that I was really tapping into discernment, really tapping into my own boundaries, my own energy, what was mine, what was someone else's, because I didn't really understand that, right? And this happens a lot when we begin to awaken. We begin to awaken to our gifts, and we understand the energies around us, and also that most of our personality, most of our traits, our trauma responses, right, are things that we just ingrained and like learned in childhood. So there are these behaviors that like really aren't even ours, but they are part of that's how we operate, right? So 95% of our day is subconscious. So with channeling, you allow yourself to open to what you desire, right? So that's why I believe intentions are so important, so crucial, because you don't want to just open your channel, your crown chakra, to anyone. You really want to be careful and discerning. I love that word because it's so true. We get to be discerning in who we allow into our space. And this goes for healers, this goes for psychics, mediums, really tapping into your heart and not tapping into fear or desperation when you are looking for answers. I think that helps a lot too. I've had times in my life where I was desperate for answers, where I was in fear state, and I relied on others who weren't channeling the correct entities, right? Who weren't bringing love into the equation. And it's experience. It's honestly experience. And trusting your channel, I think, is so important too, right? Trusting the energies that are around you. So one of my favorite things to do if this happens to you while you're sleeping, is if you feel something in your room, if you feel something around you, you could do this even during the day if you feel something around you, but it usually happens at night, right? Because we're sleeping, the lights are off, our channels are more open, right? We're more susceptible to what's around us. And if you feel something, you can ask, are you of the light, right? Are you Christ consciousness? You can put whatever words in there you want, but really ask the entity, like, are you here? Are you here to help? Are you of the light? And if you don't hear anything, it's usually because they are looking for someone to, yeah, to like feed off of or to host or to, yeah, it sounds kind of crazy, but it's not crazy. The more you awaken, the more you emulate light, the more you emit light, that if you are off of Earth, right, and you're just like looking down at this 3D world, you're going to see all these pockets of light, right? All these light workers who are shedding the trauma, who are releasing, and who aren't as heavy as those who are walking around with trauma. And this isn't right or wrong or better or worse, like, or good or bad. No, it's just science, right? The more you release trauma and cleanse yourself and do the inner work, the more you're going to emit a higher frequency, and the more things will be attracted to you. For better or for worse. So asking that question can really help you begin to discern your boundaries and begin to strengthen your protective shield, right? Where you are on your journey, who you allow in. Because honestly, I feel a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people who channel, at times they're almost like these actors, right? Not the people, but like the entities are actors. Like, oh, I'm Mother Mary. Oh, I'm Archangel Michael. And it's like, are you really like, you can when you are on this path, you can really begin to tell who is channeling from a clear channel. And I have a few people that I absolutely love who I know just like through my own heart space that they are clear channels. If you know of Lee Harris, 100% clear channel. Like, I will always listen to his monthly updates because I really believe he has a very clear channel to his guides. And it's important. It's important when we're doing this work to have that intention to surround yourself with positive light before doing any sort of spiritual work, right? To really give yourself that energetic space between you and everything else around you, and to call in your protective guides, right? Your aligned ancestors, the souls that are really here to help you on your path, right? So that you can have that clear antenna. I always say the antenna, the crown chakra, and making sure that it is of sound messages, right? So if you're just starting out with channeling this, you might have stories, and I would love to hear other stories about different energies that have come into your space, who you might work with, right? Because yeah, there's a lot of false light out there, and it's really important for each of us to be on our own journey. And one of my rules, not even rules, but I really believe, like, follow your gut, follow your heart, trust yourself to make those decisions, and to trust those people, whoever you are trusting with your channel, because yeah, it's like a wild circus out there, guys. Like, you go on Instagram and there's no regulation, right? Of coaches and healers, and it's just this wild card. So really being able to get quiet and have a meditation practice and being able to cleanse your energy every day, morning, nighttime is really crucial, because yeah, there's just a lot out there. But I don't want it to become all these guidelines. I've channeled a lot in my life. I've channeled, years ago. I think I shared this before. I was on the couch, like watching a show, and my nose got really hot and red. And that's a clear telltale sign for me of channeling. It's like my nose gets red. It always happens in healing sessions, or my ears get red. And I literally felt Jesus. I felt Jesus, Yeshua, with me. And when I felt him with me, I was like, no, there's no way. Like, you're Jesus. There's no way you are coming to me. Like, I'm just measly Michelle, right? Like, I'm just this earthly being. Why would you come to me? And he was so loud and clear of, you are me, I am you. Like, I'm not above you. Don't pedestalize me. I was human like you as well. So this brings me to my next part of this episode, is that I, at this point in my journey, love to channel those who have been on the earth plane. I just feel this deeper sense of connection, and not as much in my headspace or my crown chakra, right? Of like these galactic, like wild, these like non-earthly beings that like don't even know what it feels like to be on earth, right? I would rather channel and sit with those who have been on earth, right? The historical figures, those who have passed on. I've had celebrities who have passed on come to me. Like, it's wild when you are open. Like, sometimes it just randomly happens at the gym. But anyway, the earthly beings, right? Mother Mary, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Joan of Arc, right? For me, there is this deeper sense of connection. And you might not agree with that, and that's okay, but like, it's powerful for me. And also aligned ancestors, right? Because our aligned ancestors, I say aligned because some of our ancestors are still in the fear. Even though they've passed on, they've transitioned, they still have this human fear of where we are going, or where you are personally going in your journey. You might be going to places that they didn't go to, or they were afraid to go to. So when you call and pray on your aligned ancestors, you are praying on those who trust in your purpose and trust in your path, and might not know where you're going, but they're like, oh, you're doing it for us. Like, I feel this. So I always say aligned ancestors whenever I'm praying. And channeling them is so beautiful because, I channel my grandma when I'm cleaning. She was a professional house cleaner. She was a witch. And I really love tapping into her energy when I am doing housework, when I am cleaning and doing spiritual rituals, because yeah, she was here, right? So being able to channel is something I feel most of us can do, but it comes down to intention. It comes down to the purpose of why you're channeling, right? If you're channeling a god or a goddess, it's like, why do you want to connect with that spirit? A lot of popular ones are Archangel Michael, right? The protector, the one who's here to cleanse. I do like calling on angels as well. Like Angel Raphael is for healing, right? And you could do this. Sometimes I do this when I'm going for a massage. I will channel like certain deities or angels to help me process and release and quicken up, any of the healings I'm going through. And yeah, it's a journey. It's a experience of making it your own. This is my story. These are my different my different experiences, but what you're going to do with channeling is your own personal journey. So I always just say, be careful where you share your energy, making sure that you are cleansing, you are protecting your space. Regularly, I try to cleanse the whole house at least once a month, but I'm always saging. I'm always mentally clearing at night, in the morning, really being able to center my own energy, because that's also when you know you are receiving the most pure light, the most pure messages, is when you are tapped in, when when you can feel your own energy. So if you're feeling foggy, if you're feeling like, not grounded, not rooted, like, is that the best time to channel? I don't know. You might be picking up some static. You might pick up some other things that are in the realm, right? There's so much of what we can't see that is here. I think it's like 98% of reality is things we can't see with the human eye. Like, that's bananas. I mean, you think of like your animals, right? Cats can see so much. They're always like looking up and in the corners. And yeah, there's a lot that is on this earth that we can't physically see with our eyes. So when you are channeling, give yourself that space, and always call on your guides, always call on your protectors, and always close the channel when you're finished. That time that I was helping that soul transition in San Francisco, who was in my apartment and just like, oh, like, I really think a lot of us can be afraid, right, of entities or beings, but most of the time, they are just stuck. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They're in between those worlds. So if we are able to help them, right? If you're able to help another soul trust in that next step, in that next life, then it also helps you, right? Because we might have been that soul in past lifetimes, right? Or we might be that soul in future lifetimes, like shocked from our death, or grieving, or just being around loved ones, and not moving on to their next purpose, their next journey. So yeah, I remember really closing the portal after helping that soul transition and move along, and let him know, like, hey, this is not your space. Like, you can be firm too. Like, be firm with spirits. Like, you get to call the shots. And I used to be someone who was afraid of the dark a lot of my childhood. Even when I first awakened, sometimes I would sleep with the lights on, or I would listen to music. I remember when I was in high school, and yeah, I was in high school, I would like leave the TV on till I fell asleep, like put a sleep timer on, because it was scary. There was so much static, there was so much interference from other realms, but I didn't know how to discern. I didn't know what to do with that energy, right? I didn't know how to set boundaries. And I think it's so important to set those boundaries when you are sleeping. You get to have a full, beautiful night's sleep and not be interrupted by, yeah, entities or spirits, or like souls that are trying to talk to you. Um, there was one time, this is funny. There was one time when I was traveling in 2022, and I was at this house sit, and it was a day bed set up in her living room, and she had a ton of mirrors in her living room. And if you don't know, mirrors are portals. So I highly recommend never putting mirrors facing your bed, because while you're sleeping there, that's like a huge highway that is just, you're just asking for energies to come in and out. And to really be intentional where you put mirrors in your house, because they are portals. They can invite in energies that you might not desire to have. So I learned this. I'd known about this for years, but I really learned this when I was house sitting for this woman. And in the middle of the night, I woke up to this old man's voice, and he was just like, Michelle, like, it was 3 a.m. And I'm like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, I remember saying that out loud, like, leave me the fuck alone. And then the next morning, I draped all the mirrors in that room with cloth or with towels, right, to block off the highway. And I put Reiki symbols on the mirrors to close out the portals, because, yeah, if you didn't know, mirrors are portals, and it's really important to, yeah, not mess around with that. So that was an interesting experience I had. like telling an old man spirit to fuck off at 3 a.m. I was like, no, I am sleeping. Find another highway to like chill on and to ride on. Um, but yeah, it's important. It's important to be discerning in your own channeling, be discerning in who you trust with your channel, who you trust with your energy, your aura, because there are good people out there. There are, heart-centered channelers, and there's also a lot of people that are acting and that are just trying to make money. And as you move along this journey, you really start to feel and to see more through the glass of those who aren't here for real purposes, that aren't here from the spiritual ego or from spiritual entertainment. There's so much spiritual entertainment out there. I have a whole episode on that as well. But yeah. And also always take what resonates and leave the rest, like anyone that is channeling for you, right? It's like you get to not believe that if you don't want to believe it. You get to say like, that's not true, right? That's not my truth. Maybe you don't have to say it to them, but like afterwards, you could just be like, that's not true. That's not my truth. Really trust in your authority, trust in how much you know. And I think that's, yeah, why I shied away from talking about this topic for so long is that because I'm very truthful about it. I've had very negative experiences in my life. I'm really a soul here to experience a lot and to teach on it. And yeah, I've had, black magic happen. I've had people who quote unquote channeled and it was not true. It just put me more into fear-based thinking and fear-based living. And I am just a huge advocate for protecting yourself and giving yourself the benefit of the doubt to open your own channel and to sit with your own energy and also know you don't have to channel, right? Like we can access so much within ourselves. That's why also for me, it's important for me to channel my higher self and channel my own soul. And I know their voices so loudly because I've sat with them, right? And I've journaled with them. And, channeled writing is also like another beautiful way to start accessing that if you are too much in your head. Meditate, sit for a little bit, and then ask yourself, like, what do I really need to know right now? And just allow yourself to write, allow yourself to stream anything that is coming through, anything that's moving, because yeah, channeled writing helped me a lot in the beginning of my spiritual journey where I didn't really know, I didn't know I didn't know what I was doing, honestly, back in the day. I just experimented. I just trusted the nudges and I trusted what was coming through. And I look back at some of those notebooks and some of those answers were answers that I have now fulfilled since then. So my channel gave me answers, right? I was able to live my life from my own experiences and my own journey. And I think that is what's so important is for a lot of us to come back to self. And that doesn't mean not trusting anyone. For a little bit, I didn't. I kind of closed off my heart to the channelings of others. But there are people out there that are heart-centered and that are channeling the light and are able to really access that space. So yeah, I don't really know if there is more to share. Maybe there will be. If you guys have questions, if anything comes up for you, I would love to share more. But that is what's coming through today. And as always, just have discernment and trust your own self above all. And yeah, trust your own channel. I love you guys.